I wanted to start worship by addressing and acknowledging directly what occurred this week in two important ways. First, and I know a prayer on many of our hearts is for the people of Ukraine and for the unjust war being waged currently there. And even now it's developing. I'm noticing headlines of potential peace talks that we can certainly be in prayer for. I think it's important on weeks like this to remind ourselves of the Christian call towards making peace. To be peacemakers in the world means to reject the tools of violence and war as a thing that brings about the kingdom of God. We have to know that and name that. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful towards members of our military service or to say that war in all cases is always unjust, but I would say as Christians, we are uniquely called to consider that violence and warfare does not build the kingdom of God and is not our primary tool set for doing so. And especially when war is waged in such a hostile and unjust way, we have to be even more so defenders of those who would seek to defend peace and liberty within their own land. And so our hearts and our prayers, and I pray that our actions are for the people of Ukraine, and specifically in Kyiv, which I learned is the Ukrainian pronunciation. And we're all going to learn to pronounce things Ukrainian, aren't we? To be a people of prayer and love and action for the people of Kyiv and Ukraine. We're praying for those peace talks right now. I also want to acknowledge, and this may be something that you're not aware of, but our governor drafted and submitted a letter instructing the state government to be openly hostile towards trans children and their families in this state. He referred to medical care offered to trans children as child abuse, and went further to suggest that doctors, nurses, and teachers would be held legally responsible if they do not report such child abuse to local authorities. It took me several hours to process my thoughts and emotions before I could put some coherent thoughts together that included fewer four-letter words. Because it's, and I'm not laughing because I was immediately incensed because that letter was naming people that I know and love, who are in my family and your family, who sit in our pews right this very morning, who serve on our ministry teams, who serve in leadership on our staff, who are pursuing ordination with the blessing of our church. And when we took a vote several years ago to support with our prayers and our actions every beloved child of God, including those within the trans community, what we were doing was committing to do something in the name of actions like this past week. And to, offer prayers and to make posts of support on social media, but to go further and to say, I will not allow this kind of hateful, violent hostility to live in my state, in my people. So let me say abundantly clearly that AUMC has been and will continue to be a safe and sacred place for all of God's beloved children, and most especially and including the trans community. And I don't mean to suggest that everybody in this room fully understands how they may feel. And if you are interested in learning and growing and understanding the real life impact of what a letter like that from our governor means for kids growing up and wondering about their gender identity and going to parents that they know and trust and going to doctors and nurses and teachers that they know and trust and seeking help. If you're curious about learning, I don't want you to sit in that space and feel afraid to say that. Because several years ago, I was in a place where I needed to learn a lot. So I hope we can also be a congregation that invites conversation around this, because what we need ultimately is to foster the kind of community where trans kids can grow up and know, and they can know that they are made whole and they are beloved and they are safe. Because my friends, the letter that was submitted this past week could potentially cost children their lives. And as a father who's raising 2 kids of my own and a third on the way, I can't tell you what it means to me to know that I can bring my kids to this place and to never once have to question if they are going to be loved. But here's the deal. It's not good enough for it to only happen here. So can we commit ourselves in this moment to not just fostering a sacred community in this building or in this Christian community called AUMC? Could we commit ourselves to creating the kind of sacred community in our neighborhoods, in our cities, across our state, and across our borders that allows for people to know they're beloved and made whole and loved not just by God, but by us?